So now I'd like to talk just a little bit about my mother and her relatives. Here in the Southern Mountains, the old-timers don't say relatives, they say kin. So I'll talk about their kin. Wilma grew up listening to her kin tell stories. Even after she got married at the age of 20, she sat with her mother and grandmother and aunts and uncles, and sometimes with me, and with great intentionality drew them out and wrote down their stories. These would be the raw material that formed the foundation of her work, the rich soil out of which grew her own stories and books and talks. I never saw Wilma more in her comfort zone, her happy place, than on Sunday afternoons in her mother Bonnie Cole Dykeman's home at the head of Beaver Dam. And that home we just talked about is now owned by UNCA. It's managed as part of the Writer in Residence program, and there is a Dykeman Hall on the UNCA campus. So Sunday afternoons in the 1970s, her mother, Bon, and her uncle, Ott. 50 years ago in the 1970s, just after I had graduated from college and returned to the Southern Mountains to write, I found myself looking forward to Sunday afternoons when old-timers would go visiting. And the old-timiest of them all was my favorite relative, Hottest Kermit Cole, O.K. Cole, my great uncle. He worked as a stonemason, and he was an artist in stone. As his work throughout the region demonstrates even today, he would announce himself at the front door by an extended ring of the bell. And when I opened the door, he would be standing there in his worn fedora, hiding an almost bald head, a faded jacket, overalls with cuffs turned up to the top of his tan work boots, and his wry smile already taking shape. Inside, out of the wind or the cold or the rain, he would settle himself in his sister Bonnie's Stokely rocking chair in the living room and accept a glass of water or sometimes a cup of leftover coffee. 3 generations of Coles, Bonnie Cole Dykeman, Otis Kermit Cole, me, my mother, would gather around him in that small 1926 living room, alive with its own memories and ghosts. "What's happening with your work crew?" Wilma would ask. This was an invitation to recall old stories and inject a recent story or two about a group of ragtag individuals who represented in all our minds the salt of the earth, the very essence of the Southern Appalachian culture. "Well," Uncle Ott would say, "I hired a man the other day. We were having a pretty good conversation. Then he asked me, 'How much can you pay me?' I said, 'I'll pay you what you're worth.' He said, 'Lord, I can't live on that.' Although we'd heard it many times before, we laughed at it as if it was brand new because it introduced the self-deprecation of the mountain people, as well as all our financial challenges in the mountains and trying to scrape up enough money to pay property taxes, light bills, doctor expenses, and food from the grocery." Uncle Ott continued about his recent hire. "We were building a patio and a retaining wall up on Wolf Cove Road for a woman from New Jersey. My man was laying stone steadily enough, but he took a break just as the woman looked out her window and spied him sitting down. She flew out her door and said something about him getting back to work. He stood up and said, 'Lady, I don't have an airplane motor in me.' We all laughed again. We'd heard it before, but it was still funny. Then came the finale from Uncle Ott. She didn't know when to quit. She said, 'I don't like your attitude.' The man walked closer to her, came about 2 feet from her. He said, 'I don't like your altitude either.'" So this story was an act of resistance, a statement from the grassroots that arrogance or rudeness in the name of business would not be tolerated. So the afternoon would go, story after story, pulling in other characters from our extended family. I was a pure listener, but Bonnie, Grandma Dyke to me, played a crucial role in drawing out her younger brother. And Wilma would be enjoying all of it, herself participating across the board, actively listening, just as she had done in the 1940s, reminding Ott of a long-lost time or cousin, even telling a short story or two of her own. So what is the significance of those Sunday afternoons? What good were they? Were they just words drifting off into the ether? Wilma loved those times so much because the words drew our extended family together. The humor and the art in that living room reminded us that the horror of a non-ethical culture symbolized by Watergate would pass. What would remain would be the common people, the people who would, in their own ways of wisdom, rise up when needed, make their voices heard, and preserve our democracy. And that's what the legacy is doing, the Wilma Dykeman Legacy. When we say our mission is to clarify and promote social and environmental justice through the written and spoken word, we mean it. The way to overcome Shakespeare's slings and arrows of outrageous fortune is to tell stories, to find our voices, to build community and solidarity, investigate local injustices, blaze paths forward through the wilderness. The legacy is at an inflection point. We have been an all-volunteer organization for over a decade. Now we need to find major funding to ensure sustainability through a paid executive director. Turns out that the Wilma Dykeman Legacy, just like Uncle Lot's work crew, is looking for cash. On those Sunday afternoons 50 years ago, after Uncle Lot had left, my mother and grandmother would hand wash the glasses, cups, and saucers and leave them in the sink rack to dry. Then we'd drift off to our chosen tasks. Grandma Dyke to pull weeds outside, me to write what I thought would be the great American novel. I see Wiley Cash and Denise Kiernan here, you know. They're writing it. My mother, Bonnie's daughter and Aunt's niece, to write and speak her heart out to help make this region, this country, this planet, a more just and tolerant place for all living things. Thank you.